Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Goode podcast, the podcast which is Goode. We're in a different location. I've got this knobhead sat next to me. And, this first guest on the podcast. Oh, yes. So, I've got Tom Goode here. Welcome to the podium, Tom Goode. This is Tom Goode, otherwise known as my dad. I'm going to be interviewing him, well, kind of interviewing him, but having a conversation about music. So, you've obviously been in a band in the 90s. Tell us about your band. What were you doing in your band?
Well, I was in a few bands in the 90s. I started, first band, Brian and the Teenagers, started when I was 16.
Damn, okay.
And there was, how many of us? 7 of us in the band.
Yeah.
And it was wicked laugh. I mean,
7 people?
Yeah.
So, like, what instruments are in there?
Oh, crikey.
Was it just 7 guitars and
No,
6 guitars and one drum?
It was drums, keyboards,
Okay.
bass, lots of guitar. Someone on rotor toms, and then two singers.
Yeah.
And I think that's 7. And me and Scott were the singers. Nice. It was punk.
Punk. Okay.
And it was great. We dress up.
Yeah.
Do funny things, and it was a really.
Do many gigs with them, or is that like on later on? Did you do like?
Yeah, we did.
Whereabouts in like little clubs?
In Leicester. I grew up in Leicester.
Yeah.
And so we did loads of gigs in Leicester, in a little town where we lived called Lutterworth.
Mm.
We did loads of gigs there. We just did them around. Did some in London. Did some in. It was good. There was like a scene. There was like a there was kind of like some people, because we put out record. We started a record label. You might want to ask about that later. But anyway, we did do quite a few gigs.
So you started a record label with that band, or is it
with that band? Yeah.
Nice. What was the label called?
See You Next Tuesday.
Hey, come on. See You Next Tuesday. Inventive.
See You Next Tuesday Records. And we put out. Yeah, we put out, I don't know how many singles, about 3 or 4 Brian and Teenager singles.
Okay.
But it was wicked.
That just on vinyl?
Yeah. 500. Got pressings of 500. And we got them pressed in Czech Republic, because there was no pressing plants, or it was cheaper to get them done. There were some pressing plants in UK, but they was cheaper in Czech Republic. And our friend's dad ran a screen printing business. And so we did all the covers at his. We screen printed all the covers of the records, and
proper DIY then.
And proper.
Yeah.
And then our other friend Ed, Kid Acne, he designed the covers and all of that stuff.
Yeah, wicked. Well, so with that band, are you moving on into any different bands, other more notable bands?
Well, we did
do more notable things.
So on See You Next Tuesday, we did those records. We did, I think Kid Acne released a record on there, and so we released.
Yeah. By the way, if you don't know, Kid Acne, he's a cool rapper. Go check him out. He's on Spotify. He does just chill little rap beats, doesn't he? And he's obviously your mate, Scott's brother.
Yeah. And we released somewhere, and then we did a compilation of that. Of See You Next Tuesday, and loads of other friends put songs on this compilation, CD compilation that we put out. And then on there was a band called Tower Dynamic.
Right.
There was loads of things, but on there was a band called Tower Dynamic, which was basically the same people, but
different name.
But different name.
The game's the game.
We all had different names.
Yeah.
In Tower Dynamic, and so we just did more.
So it's like Wu-Tang Clan.
Well, if like a,
shit version,
a Midlands England version of Wu-Tang Clan. But yeah, we were all we all did different bands. So I guess kind of, and some people had released records before. Some people doing solo things. So we were just releasing records.
Yeah. So then after that, was that when you moved on to Methodist Centre? No.
So then we did Tower Dynamic.
Yeah.
And we did Tower Dynamic for ages. And we released one album and some 7 inches.
Yeah.
we just took a really long time to and we would go up to Sheffield and sit around smoking. I would watch tennis and get bollocked for watching tennis. What else would happen in
There you
Sheffield?
go.
And we would just get pissed
There you go.
and
Right,
and try to write songs, and then go back to London, then go back up to Sheffield.
yeah.
And but we released. I'm trying to think if we released anything else, but we did an album and a handful of singles.
Right, okay.
And
this is all on vinyl.
All on vinyl, yeah. But this was a new record label we did, so we ceased Seeing It Tuesday, started Invisible Spies that kind of had more people on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously moving on to Methodist Centre, because obviously haven't got your tickets yet. You're playing at Music Festival.
Playing at Music Festival.
So yeah, get your tickets. You can see see a bit of what we're talking about here. Yeah, Methodist Centre. What was that all about? Like, obviously that was a bit like, 2 drummers, 1 guitarist.
Yeah.
It was kind of starting something new. It was kind of like new for the time. I don't know, that I've never really seen that before personally. But tell me a bit more about that.
So, Will, Supreme Vagabond Craftsman, who was in Brian and Teenagers and in Tower Dynamic, me and him were working together in an office, laughing the whole time about how stupid offices are. And it was just me and him in the office. And yeah, so we just laughed.
Work, obviously.
Huh?
Doing work,
but mainly laughing at how stupid offices are. And in these conversations, we went, let's do a band about how funny offices are. Our friend Pete, who was also in bands when we were young at school and stuff, he was in London, and he was a civil servant who would also laugh about how stupid offices are.
Right, okay.
And so we would all laugh about we didn't really have anything, but we would laugh at how stupid offices are. And so then we said, why don't we do a band and do songs about how stupid offices are? And Methodist said, and I couldn't play any other instruments other than drum. Pete couldn't play any other instruments other than drum. So we went, well, let's both drum. And Will could play anything. Will's a better drummer than both of us, but Will and a better singer than both of us.
Yeah.
But we decided to so Will played guitar, me and Pete would drum and sing, and Will wasn't allowed to say anything. So that's how Methodist Centre started.
So in terms of you writing lyrics and stuff, you like, because obviously you were the singer, did you write the lyrics?
Yeah.
So what was your process in writing the lyrics?
Well, we would in rehearsal we would just play and then shout stuff. But it was all improvised, yeah. All improvised off the top of our heads. Yeah.
Did you improvise like the drums and the structure and stuff, or is that kind of like definitive?
Well, essentially, all structures came out the same thing from a drum point of view, where you go, okay, so we're playing either playing 4/4. You're either playing 8ths or 16ths.
Yeah.
And then there's another bit that we called Stone Roses, which is dung dung tuk, tuk, dung, which is like the bit off down down you bring me down, the drumming off that. So they're the 3 drum types of drumming that we would do.
Right. Okay.
So there wasn't a huge amount of writing that we had to
proper do. Like basic sort of stuff.
No, yeah, proper basic sort of stuff. So we go, should we put Stone Roses a bit that? Yeah.
So in terms of like improvising lyrics, obviously some people might find it hard to write lyrics, or and they might be like, right, what can I do? And improvising is something that I do personally. But do you have any tips for like lyricists or singers like improvising?
Just keep saying stuff.
Just saying anything.
And you'll hear loads of where you end up saying the same things. And like, there's stuff that you end up always talking about. Like when I was talking about being in Tower Dynamic.
Yeah.
That's what we do in Tower Dynamic. And, we'd be there for whole weekends going, singing and just saying, singing about whatever we could see. And I looked at my flight and I took my face. And you end up always talking, I did end up always talking about my face. And,
there you go.
And that was all that was ever spoken about.
Fair enough.
You just say what has ever in your head. But it's that's how all songs end up
So kind of just
being
see what you see.
started.
You don't really need to like it be amazing in terms of improvisation. You just like got to get a starting point.
Yeah,
get
yeah.
something written
And
down.
you get a vocal melody, and then
And then it all spawns from there. Is that what you said?
yeah.
Nice. So with Methodist Centre, obviously I know, but tell some of the people watching some of the exciting things that you did in terms of like festivals and stuff. What did you do?
Well, it was good. We did loads of good stuff. So there's 2 drummers.
Yeah.
When we anyway, I'll talk about that in a bit. But we did a 4 drummer gig, which was amazing.
Crazy.
Best thing about that being, we counted in, and when you got 4 drummers, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And so yeah, with 4 drummers, that was amazing. We did that. We did loads of really good gigs. Opened for the Slits when the Slits reformed, which was well exciting. And so I've played Glastonbury. That was good.
Just to reiterate, say again.
You played Glastonbury.
Hey, come on.
But it was in the Las Vegas tent.
There you go. Hey, Glastonbury's Glastonbury.
But that was good.
Yeah.
And other than it was
so playing Glastonbury, like what was that like? Like was the audience? Was there like a lot of audience, or was it?
Well, I can't really remember.
Okay, fair enough.
We were on late. I was hammered, so I can't really remember.
Fair.
But
you're on late, like really.
The funny thing was me and Pete drove there. Pete driving, and because you got artist passes, you get like a certain way, and I think we must have been shown kind of the wrong way. And this was really muddy. This was a really, really muddy Glastonbury.
Oh no!
And we got shown the wrong way, and Pete was in like this BMW that was his partner's. That was like a saloon car, so it was not right for really, really muddy Glastonbury. He was driving through all the people in Glastonbury in this car. It was like the end of the world with people coming up to the screens, up to the windscreen. And Pete was having a mega massive panic attack as we were driving through this thing. I was going, I don't know what to do. That was really funny. But but getting because it was so muddy.
That's so funny.
It was a nightmare.
Just melting down in the car.
He was properly melting down.
It was like someone out of The Walking Dead or something.
But it was because it was all like people coming up to the windscreen.
Faces,
and we were just in this proper dad golf club car, and it was funny.
So what year was that? What?
It was 2004 maybe.
So 2 years before I was born. So you're basically a rock star then. I've got a rock star dad. Is that what you're saying?
No. You've got someone who sat in a passenger seat with his really good friend having a panic attack next to him. Whilst going, oh my god, this is mental.
Yeah.
But that was wicked. But getting the kit around in the mud was more, man. It was hard yards.
So did you press records with that band?
Yes.
Center?
Yeah. So we did. So there were 2 iterations of it. We did 3 or 4 singles.
Right.
With me in the band.
Yeah.
And then I left when Albie was born. Me and Mum and you and Albie moved out of London.
Right. Okay.
And then Ian joined Methodist Centre, and they did a song called "Ian's in the Band." and so they did another 2 singles.
Right. Okay. So obviously now, if you want to release music, you're gonna have to pay like £100 for DistroKid to get it on Spotify, or for free on SoundCloud. But getting it into the world on Spotify is it's pretty expensive nowadays. So how expensive was it to press like vinyls when you're with Methodist Centre or Terradynamic or any of the other bands?
In Terradynamic, it was like in the first one, it cost like for 500, probably cost £500, something like that.
Oh my god! So
and then we had to print it and get the bags and stuff.
Yeah. But that's all like.
But it was loads of money. It felt like loads of money at the time.
Well, £500 is a lot of money, but selling it for how much did you sell it for? Like What?
You know, things you try to sell it, you just end up with loads of records, loads of the same records.
Yeah.
But but yeah, it's I would say it's really cheap to release records now.
Yeah.
Or
Do you
not
reckon?
records,
So-
release songs now.
So do you think it's cheaper now to get your music out there than it was before?
Cheaper now.
Wicked. So
But you know, if you want a physical copy
yeah,
of
yeah,
something,
yeah.
it doesn't.
So
And I like it's nice to have a
Yeah,
physical
yeah.
copy of something.
So in terms of being a DIY artist and being in the industry in the 90s,
Yeah.
being about in the scene and stuff, what is like some notable differences between being in the scene in the 90s and being here now? Like what can you see as different? Because obviously you've
Well,
seen.
the thing is, I'm not in the scene. I see what you're
Yeah,
doing.
but
And I see
like
what Albie's doing.
yeah,
and,
yeah,
I,
yeah.
and I come and watch you. But really, there was loads of venues,
Yeah, so like
and there were loads of venues.
so
And
everywhere you could just get and they would just have live bands.
yeah, there was
Mm.
yeah. But you get paid now. You didn't get paid when we were playing.
Right, okay.
And or maybe we were just shit and no one paid us. That's probably more like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say there were
More.
and there were more bands. I think
Yeah.
there were loads of bands, loads of people in bands. Like
Mm.
there were just loads of bands all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'd say there are fewer bands, there are fewer venues,
Mm.
but
But
and the variety of bands there's loads more.
yeah. Because I reckon now, like in the Hereford scene, there's a lot of metal and a lot of rock, really, or punk. So it's kind of like the exact same genre. But I can imagine in the 90s, well, where were you? Like Leicester, there was like loads of
Yeah.
variety and stuff.
Well, no, yeah, not yes, but yeah, I suppose there was probably within that a great
yeah.
Just
So
because there were more bands, I suppose.
yeah. So do you reckon with like one thing that's obviously changed is social media
Yeah.
and the ability that you can just whip up your phone and post a video promoting your content for free, and you can just record like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, we can just promote stuff whenever and however we want to. Do you reckon that's a benefit, or do you reckon it's kind of a negative in a way?
Well, the negative, if all of this existed when I was younger,
Yeah.
there'd be loads of really awful videos of me doing really awful things.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that there are no videos of me doing really awful things.
For your employment.
For my general, yeah. I'm so happy there's not. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's mental that everything is videoed. But then there's no videos, not enough videos of stuff that we did. Probably quite a good thing, really. But what were you asking?
That's fine. So what, like social media and stuff?
Oh, do you being able to do that?
Yeah.
I think it's amazing you can do all that stuff, because all we had to do.
Yeah.
I remember when we were going, right, let's get if we're going to do a record label. I'm going, we'll do a record label. We need a fax machine. And so we bought a fax machine from like a second shop in Argos, and that was the way of getting things over to people, was faxing stuff, because you couldn't email.
Yeah.
You could only phone people or send people letters.
Right. Okay.
So it was, and that sounds like it's the Second World War or something, but you couldn't.
That's crazy.
And the fact that now you can do this.
Yeah.
Set this up in a weird shed.
Yeah.
and just put it on whatever you put it on.
So what will we? So obviously the main way, like, if I've got a gig or if a band has got a gig coming up, they post like posters on their social media. What was ways that you promoted stuff? Posters. Just
so like I've got loads of old posters that we did that are funny.
Yeah.
Like again, Ed was wicked, so he would do some posters, and we always did just funny weird posters that you'd put up.
Yeah.
And you'd photocopy them. My dad worked at home, which was rare when I was younger, and he had a photocopier in his office. And so we just used to Photocopied everything, photocopied absolutely everything all the time. Just did loads of photocopying. So we'd photocopy
putting up posters and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's kind of still the thing now. So do you reckon that in the next like 10 years, anything's going to change with music and how it's gonna with AI or with anything? Like, is there anything that's going to change drastically? Do you reckon?
What do you reckon?
Because I reckon, well, there's going to be even more. Like, I mean, already in my lifetime of being within the scene around Hereford and Worcester, like, I've seen like 3 major grassroots venues closed down with paradiddles and other ones like that. And like, I just think more and more will slowly close down until you've only got like the big ones. And the thing that's really good about grassroots venues is it gives like bands like a little step up. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can play at a smaller venue and then you can grow an audience through playing at these smaller venues and then get to the bigger ones. But I just think it will be so much harder for bands to then get up to these bigger, ones, bigger like venues and stuff.
Yeah.
So growing an audience, I think, would just be really hard.
This is why I keep saying you should do a night and have a regular thing. But, the other thing, AI wise.
Yeah,
what
AI
do you think
wise.
about that?
Horrible, absolutely horrible. I just think it's gonna ruin the music industry. So obviously you work in IT, or around that sort of thing. How would you reckon that's going to affect? Like, you're kind of seeing it firsthand, or you know way more about it than I do.
But I think it'll there'll just be more. You'll just be engaging more with robots in the future, as in not robots, but as in just on text. You will just be talking to them more and more. So I hope it will make engaging like this, as in human to human, more important, like, which means music. Live music becomes much more important, because you can't automate it, you can't generate it. Do you know what I mean? It's real.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully it just becomes more valuable because of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's kind of like something about going to a gig and like having your like favorite local band, and you all kind of know each other. Like, you kind of know the band, like every band, the people in the band.
Yeah.
And I think there's something, like you say, there's something like valuable about that. And like, human contact is like, because like even scrolling on reels is like so much AI brain rot that you see. It's just completely changing the trajectory of everything.
But and the people together responding to humans together responding to another human.
Yeah.
Doing, making a song, playing a song.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And computers, can they do that? I don't know, but will they? But there's something about that, groups of people together responding to something.
So, do you reckon there's any benefits within music and AI and anything at all that AI is going to benefit, or not at all?
Yeah, it's going to make things easier.
Yeah.
But
is it going to make things easier for the right people?
Well, who's the right people?
Like Spotify.
Oh, right, I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, it's going to make but it's going to make easier to record things and all that stuff. So that's that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I suppose, but so it's not all bad. It's definitely not all bad.
Yeah.
And it's like the stuff that you ought to get Pete and Scott on here. Ask them about their
definitely
band.
Definitely. Well, just to close things off, because I think it's kind of coming to an end now, do you have any wise words for someone who's watching and wants to start a band and start gigging and stuff? Do you have any wise words?
Do it, and go to the night that you're going to set up, because it's going to be the best night in the area.
Wicked. Well, thank you very much. Sorry about the no episode last week, because just finished my coursework, so chill out, mate. All right, I know you've been gagging to watch the Goode podcast latest episode, so I'll be back on it every week, Friday at 5 p.m. So first guest, how do you feel?
I feel very proud and honoured to be your first guest.
Oh, look at him. He's getting all sobby. Well, there you go. Thank you very much. Catch me next week with a guest or maybe not. I don't really know, to be honest. Don't plan these. They just come as they go. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe and peace.